Whenever someone asks you what you do, what do you usually reply?
I usually say that I'm a sustainability consultant for celebrity and leader lifestyles or fashion supplier businesses or brands.
Does it get confusing for people? Like they ask, hey, what is that? Or do they understand initially?
Usually I'm speaking to people within the kind of like fashion industry. And so usually they get it. But I did have one recently when I was like out on a hike and I got chatting to this really nice woman. And she was a bit older than me. And she was like, I'm going to be your mum while you're here. Like, it's going to be great. I was like, oh, thanks. Then she was like, so what do you do? And then she like sent me a follow up message and was like, I don't understand it. Can you tell me more? Like, can you send me your website? Like, is it like, I was trying to think, she was like, is it just like forest, like planting trees and stuff like that? Or is it like, what's it like? And I was like, no, it's nothing at all like that. It's more like strategy focused, like in the
Yeah.
business.
Yeah.
I'm on a desk, you know?
No, what? Sorry?
I'm on a desk. Like
Yeah.
it's not
Yeah,
Yeah.
very
yeah,
I
yeah.
like I don't work in the field. I'm like, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I had to have that sit down with myself a while ago and be like, yeah, you do not have the education to go and work out in the field, unfortunately, as much as I would love to do conservation stuff. I would
Yeah.
have to be trained.
actually talking about education.
Yeah.
This is something huge. You went to Harvard, and so tell us about your experience. You got a master in sustainability.
Yeah.
Yes, sustainability, right?
Yeah, I loved it. Like I could not rate the program highly enough. It came at a time when it's like I'd just finished design school. I'd been out for like a year and I was doing these like freelance roles and like internships and just trying to do a bunch of things and still trying to design and build out my own brand, which was something I thought I wanted to do at the time. And I realized through the freelance work and through trying to source my own materials, I actually didn't know as much about sustainability as I thought I did. And so like this was like I had spent all of my like undergrad degree building out a sustainable clothing portfolio basically.
Yeah.
And even with that though, there wasn't really that much education on it. And so when I got out, I got hired for these positions to help do the sustainability for fashion companies. But I was like, I don't actually know what I'm talking about. And I didn't really know right from wrong. And, I didn't really have an internal compass about it. And so I had this one role and I didn't really feel like I was valued. And I kind of had this moment where I sat down and I was like, okay, what do you actually want to do? And I kind of realized that sustainability was actually my passion, not fashion, as they say. And so I kind of wanted to go back and retrain in sustainability so that I could help other fashion designers become more sustainable.
Mhm.
Like that was kind of my impetus. And so the program was great because it was the only program that I could find at Harvard, this is, that did a mix of the kind of super quantitative, like, this is how many trees you need to plant if you want to sequester this much carbon.
Mm.
And this is how you measure scope 1, 2, and 3 greenhouse gas emissions for a fashion company. Or I also did university and stuff like that.
Mhm.
And then it also got into the more holistic, like regenerative and circular economies and sustainability leadership in this century, and kind of how can you use like active listening as a tool to empathize with the people that you're working with in the supply chain and all these kinds of great things. And then the final project was a consulting capstone project, which basically meant that I got to build out a sustainability action plan for a biomaterials textiles company. And so that was basically me acting as an independent consultant, doing all of the project management, working with the CEO and the COO to like come up with the sustainability action plan, which I loved. And so that heavily informed the work that I do today because I just enjoyed it so much. I just wanted to keep doing it.
Mhm.
And I could find a job at another company that allowed me to do that with that much freedom. And so, yeah, I loved it. I think it was a great experience. I learned a lot.
That's where your sustainability, like that's where it really came into your life in that sense, like where you started to even get like a vocabulary of what sustainability was.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
guess so.
Yeah.
Because I think reflecting back on it, I'd always had sustainability in my life. I just didn't know what it was.
No. Do you feel like it's a term that then also is like misused in a way? Like,
Well, yeah,
cause we just like, we say like with greenwashing and whatever, right? We use it a
yeah.
lot. I think it's often misinterpreted because we just use it.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. And I was at this really interesting talk, and one of the women who helps work with policy in the European Union was saying that there's no commonly agreed upon definition of sustainability
Mm,
across
Right.
regions, which is super
interesting.
problematic.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, there's like, I usually refer back to the definition of sustainability science, which is there are three interconnected subsystems within sustainability, and that is the human, the planet, and the industry. And so you kind of get sustainability when those three are living in harmony and a balance.
Mm.
And so at the moment, we're noticing that it's not balanced because like industry is, humanity is kind of taking over
Yeah.
the planet.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and more or less also then maybe interpreting the word that like the word itself, like themselves as a company or as an individual, right? Businesses or individuals, they interpretate sustainability themselves and then but it isn't the scientific description of it. It's
Right,
more or
got
less
you.
just like using it as, a way of getting customers or getting attention.
Yeah. Do you mean like they come up with their own definition of
Yeah.
sustainability?
Yeah.
Or more like they spin any definition of, or just like use the word to get?
No, they come up with their own definition of it.
Yeah. Which I don't mind if people do that as long as it's grounded in
Yeah. Exactly.
like the proper scientific
Yeah.
definition. I think it's kind of powerful when you can come up with your own definition because then it becomes like your North Star and your guide with every decision that you make, which I like.
Mm.
But it is definitely problematic if someone's just like, yeah, sustainability is
Whatever. Yeah.
okay, flowers. If you just like grow flowers like in your garden, like I don't know what it is,
Exactly.
like
Yeah. Oh,
it's not holistic.
I walk on soil, so I'm sustainable.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, I'm very curious of, so you took this very big leap between studying fashion and working in fashion and then deciding to do the masters in sustainability.
Yeah.
Do you think there were any mentors or any people specifically that shaped your vision on what sustainability or maybe a reconnection to a purpose in terms of when you create and when you produce there are?
Ooh, wait, that's a good question. Mentors, do you mean mentors like when, like now, today,
From
back in the day when I was at design school, or like when I did my master's?
I think I'm referring more to this pivotal moment of this life-changing person or book or whatever it is.
Yeah, I
It doesn't have
see.
to be, but this very, because it's a very, very big decision, right? Of changing industries like that. So something that maybe somebody told you or something, what was this very big inspiration or motivation to really go for it?
I remember emailing. So when I was doing my undergrad in fashion design, I did a concentration in nature, culture, sustainability, and science. And
Wow.
so I emailed the head of that department, who I'd worked with on an internship building out this really cool women's cooperative in Sri Lanka to like help make a sustainable livelihood out of manufacturing textiles and growing plants that can make textiles. And it was all a theoretical project, but I hope one day it does get built.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I emailed her, and I think she'd gone to Harvard for her undergrad, possibly. And so I emailed her and I was like, hey, this is what I'm thinking. What do you think? Good, bad? What are your thoughts? And she got back to me and was like, no, they're doing really good things over at that school. I think you'll really enjoy it. Try it out, see how it goes, kind of thing. So I remember emailing her. And I probably would have reached out to more people, but I don't really remember.
Yeah.
She's the one who's coming to mind at the moment.
Popping up.
Okay.
How would you
I mean,
say that going to Harvard and that formal education, how has that shaped you today?
Oh, like in a lot of different ways. I think that was probably honestly, and this is kind of embarrassing to admit, but the first time I actually read books cover to cover. I was like, you're at Harvard, like, and you're doing a master's, like you need to read.
yeah.
And so that was actually great because I got to learn so much through these wonderful books. And then with that, it then really helped with the scientific research process.
Yeah.
And so I could get through reading a lot of scientific papers in a day and then come up with research papers that I really enjoyed. And I think it was also like following that scientific process of writing research papers that really made me have critical thinking around what people are telling you
Yeah.
and what brands are saying. And a lot of brands, even the sustainable brands, say that they're sustainable and ethical, but then you go and you check what's on the like clothing label, and it's polyester or elastane based or a blend of a bunch of different things.
Mhm.
I'm just like, but that's just not true then.
Yeah.
I mean, it could be true that in part they're ethical, but
I love the fact that you're saying this, and it resonates a lot with when we work together, right? In
yes.
sustainability, in your sustainability consulting, like I help Isabelle with her social media and her content creation and everything. And so basically, I remember at one point I asked you, what do you think separates you and differentiates you from the other, like sustainability, like all the sustainability people out there, and you told me, yeah, the education in the end, and the fact that you basically know the facts, like the science behind it, and this resonates a lot with, let's say, other clients in general in the wellness and in the health industry and in sustainability, which are topics that are arising so much. And so people are just like kind of reading about it every now and then, and what they understand and what they learn, they just share it. But then there's actually a baseline of education that's important to have, let's say, so that you, for your clients, can really go in depth. And I feel like you have that, and that's the type of thing that, yeah, for instance, Harvard or other like sources have given you, right? And that's very valuable in that sense.
Thanks. Yeah. And I think for things that I don't know, I know how to research it to
Yeah,
find the answers and to know if
yeah.
the answers are true or not.
Gave you the tools.
Yeah. Yeah. And to kind of discern if something is clickbait or not. Like I remember the article that came out about what was it, secondhand clothes? No, not secondhand, sorry, renting clothing
Mhm.
came out. It was like, I don't remember the headline, but it was something like, renting clothing is destroying the planet, you're better off buying new. It was something super controversial like
Mhm.
that.
Mhm.
I went to the original scientific article and I started reading it and I was like, yeah, they're not like, even
Yeah.
the wording that they're using. I mean, scientific articles are usually pretty, this could be the case, and the wording that they use
Yeah.
kind of vague.
Yeah.
But just reading their data, there were so many variables. And so I don't think it was enough to spin this whole article.
No. No. But it was
Or this
for
lines.
yeah, but it gained readers and
Yeah.
attention.
And
And
it was
then
everywhere. It was
yeah.
crazy.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's crazy to see how people are easily converted to believe something, right? Because
Yeah.
you can use your word. Your word is really strong in this, especially in the fashion industry. And
Mm.
as a young influenced human being, we are like constantly we're constantly bombarded with like
100%.
this
Yeah.
and that, and like you need to do this now and whatever, and like
Yeah.
but usually also just like using your logical sense and be like, okay, but does it feel natural, or does it not? Does it actually in a way like feel like it pulls me further away from what has been going on for like centuries?
Yeah.
I think that's so important to know. Like, what is your intuition telling you and what is your common sense telling you?
Yeah.
And that's a lot of why I like doing lifestyle plans as well, because I draw on those like holistic elements,
Yeah.
like to build it out.
Yeah. No,
I
I get
love
it.
that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like for the intuition it's really nice, and maybe we as humans, obviously as a woman, resonate more with it. A bit more intuitive. But in common sense wise, for me at least, if I'm reading something about an industry that I have no idea about, I'm talking, let's say, mechanics and cars, and then I read something like a big headline, I might as well just believe it, because I have no knowledge about it. So it's like, once again, what to believe, and how to discern like what's really like the information that we should believe and what we're just taking in because we're reading it, and that's it, right?
Totally. Yeah. That was another thing actually about choosing this particular program that I did, is that it wasn't fashion specific. It covered all industries. I just then chose to write my research papers on the fashion industry because it was what I was interested in. But most of the lectures were on like cars and buildings and
Yeah.
fuel and energy use and stuff like that.
Have you
Wow.
always been have you always been interested
Oh,
in fashion?
I think so, yeah. Well, from a very young age, at least. I
Yeah.
remember being, I think I was like 6 or 7. And both of my Grammy was a kitchen designer, and then my granny was an artist once she retired from being a teacher.
Oh,
And so I kind of
interesting.
grew up with quite artistic family members. And so I was always like, okay, do I want to be an art? Or always, when I was like 6, I was like, after I decided I didn't want to be an astronaut, I was like, okay, so do I want to be a painter?
So
Not really resonating. And then someone said that I could make clothes. And I just remember thinking, that's insane. That is so cool that you can do that. And it was basically from that moment, I was like, okay, I want to be a fashion designer.
So nice. I not a similar question, but I think a complementary question to yours,
Yeah.
Jasmine.
Mhm.
Which is, for instance, okay, you're studying something that's not industry specific. First of all, does it get like dreading or really boring at some point when somebody's talking to you about industries that and for instance, for you, you really like fashion, you know that you want to work in fashion, and you're hearing about other industries that you will like probably never work with, or do
Mhm.
you think it was more like, wow, there's like, did you see it maybe in a more holistic way of like everything integrates between each other and then I can learn for my industry?
Yeah. I mean, for sure, everything's interconnected. Like, even in the fashion industry, you need to know, or you don't need to, but it's helpful to know about the transportation methods and what renewable energy can look like in the industry and things like that. And so that was really helpful. I did get a little bored
I'm asking because I would.
about the different energy ones were usually the ones where I was like, oh, I've heard this before. I don't want to keep hearing about it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, super interesting, super valuable. And it's usually where most of the jobs are.
Mhm.
Um, there are a lot of jobs in clean tech and energy industries.
Something that I also wanted to ask about is your early life. Now you were speaking about the whole thing about getting into fashion. That's like 6 years old, and around there. Um, how did sustainability, did that just come along and grew along with that because you were interested in fashion, or how did your like deeper connection to the planet and to communities, how did that arise?
Yeah. Well, it happened in an unnamely way. Don't know if that makes sense, but I'll explain it. So I grew up in the French Alps. And so we'd ski all the time, we'd be outdoors all the time, we'd be hiking all the time. And we lived in this really cute little community focused village. And I remember probably once a week, twice a week, I don't remember when, me and my brother would run down with the recycling bins and chuck them in this one big communal bin at the end of the road. And we just do that out of habit. Had no idea that that had anything to do with sustainability and circularity. We would just do it from like the ages of like 10 and 6 or whatever it was. And so I think I just heard things about the natural world and like you need to respect the glaciers and like the snow and all of this stuff. And so I think that was kind of like subconsciously in my mind, but it wasn't actually, I don't remember like really hearing the term sustainability until I was like 17 or 18 at university studying in a business management class.
Mhm.
And the teacher was talking about corporate social responsibility. And I just remember thinking, yeah, everyone does that, right? And then I quickly found out that nobody basically was doing it. And so that was when I then became very determined to help change that and to work in that industry. And so that's then why I chose the Rhode Island School of Design to go to, because I could do a minor in sustainability. My happiest places now are when I'm out in or near mountains on a trail somewhere.
Mhm.
But it's crazy going back and visiting and just being in awe and wondering how was that even possible.
How
But also kind of sad because I have noticed that the snow does not fall as much and it does not come as far down into the valley as it used to when I was a kid, and it hasn't
Oh,
come for years. And so that's
really?
that's kind of sad.
Yeah. Are you there often back?
Yeah, last time I was there in December, and I tried to go back. There were a few years when I maybe a 5 year period where I didn't really go back, but then since then, for like the last like 3 or 4 years, 5 years even maybe, I've tried to go back every year.
that's
Mhm.
beautiful. I'm wondering if you have like if you could say what sustainability after this whole process of you in relation to your upbringing, your story, and then your education and your work, do you have like a definition of sustainability that works for you? And you also mentioned that you love helping people finding their own definition of sustainability. Could you go like more in depth with that?
Yeah, for sure. I So this was one class where I was mind blown, and it was the circular economics course. And I, in hindsight, had no idea what circular economics were. And I remember my professor saying, recycling is the worst case scenario in the circular economy. And I was just, what? Like,
Yeah.
world shifting. And so since that moment, I really remember thinking that the principles of the circular economy are kind of fundamental to building a more sustainable world.
Mm.
And so my definition of sustainability, although I don't remember it completely by heart, is something that incorporates the three principles of the circular economy. So like designing out toxicity and waste, preserving the value of raw materials for as long as possible. And I'm forgetting what the third one is. I think it's like, what is it? And designing for like regeneration. That's it. And so those three principles like really come into my definition of sustainability. And so I ground it in that sustainability science definition, which is sustainability has three subsystems: the human, the planetary, and then the industrial.
Mhm.
And so if then we can use the tools from the circular economy, those three principles that I just stated, to help balance out those three subsystems. And if we can reach a harmonious state where all beings can flourish, then we would have reached a sustainable lifestyle, planet, world, whatever you want to call it, business.
I love that. That's so nice. And how do you help individuals find their own definition of that?
So I like to start out with what's important to you and what are your values, what are your goals, what do you care about? And so with me, I really care heavily about regeneration and soil health. And so that one was an easy one for me. And then as a designer, I'm like, yeah, designing out waste is great. Like we talked about zero waste design when we were designing clothing all the time. Um, and then toxicity, like that one comes in for me, especially with food and toxic products. Like if there's a toxic ingredient, like I will not use it. And then it also relates to single-use plastic. And so I'll never buy a hot beverage in a single-use plastic container because of the toxicity. And I try to avoid single-use plastic where I can, but that's extremely hard in the place where I live right now. Although in other places where I've lived, it's been easier because there have been package-free stores and stuff. And so it's kind of like having that kind of conversation, like what's important to you in your daily life? Like, do you want to keep plastic? Do you want to keep plastic? Do you care about the ocean? Do you care about hiking and being outdoors? Are you more interested in conservation? Are you more interested in building community? Is it more the social aspect and the ethical aspect that
I love that.
and so kind of understanding what motivates someone and what someone's passionate about is important because they're more likely to stick to using their definition as a guiding tool.
So plastic is one of the main things that are really ruining our planet and our soil. Is there any other like hidden red flags in these brands that consumers often miss? Other than the fact that plastic is one of the main things that we want to get away from.
Well, I think in part also realizing what is plastic,
Mhm.
like elastane.
Mhm.
That's in a lot of things. A lot of people think it can be recycled. It can't. Even in small quantities, most recyclers struggle to recycle it.
Mhm.
The bags that claim to be compostable usually have plastic in them.
Okay.
So those things are kind of like hidden. And they're super problematic because some of them have recycling signs on as if they can be recycled like a plastic, but they can't. They literally melt in the machine and destroy the machine.
Yeah.
And then if you try and compost them, they won't compost at home because they need these big industrial facilities that can heat up to a really high heat to actually be able to compost them. And so I think those are extremely lethal
For sure.
products
For sure.
that have come out. Um,
I was also because from what I've heard here, at least in Denmark, there are certain, of course, guidelines, but that's in terms of like organic food and whatever. Where
Mm.
if a product has 30% organic material, organic ingredients in it, they can call it organic. Is there any such
Right.
regulation similar to that in sustainability and like what you are ethically like to get that regenerative mark, what like trademark? Is there
Mm.
any regulations that you need to like live up to get that,
Yeah.
or can you just put it on even if you do it just like 5%?
I think the USDA bio-based certification is something like 5% organic content.
Yeah,
And so technically a polyester cotton t-shirt blend could be a
an
certified
organic.
USDA
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
based product,
Mhm.
which is really tough for the biomaterial companies that are actually building products that don't have plastic in them, because I feel like it's kind of um, flooding the industry with doubts.
Mhm.
And there are some people who are doing a really good job of building out fibers that are biomaterials, but they don't have plastics in them.
Mhm.
yeah. I now that you say that, just making it harder for people, I feel like something that happens a lot in sustainability and something that people think is that if you are going to build a business or working on a business that is claimed to be sustainable, it's gonna be making baseline profit. You know, people think that basically on the only way to be sustainable is to not escalate, right? To not produce that much. And because when you escalate, then you probably are gonna have like either venture capital or like investors. All they want is to know like, hey, is a profit margin like growing?
Mm.
How can you lower the margins? How can you lower them? And that means usually like lowering the cost, right? And heightening the price, just makes it less accessible for people to buy it. But also that means that you're paying less for and paying less in general for the producers and the actual producing your supply chain, right?
Mm.
How do you think this looks like from the inside on the industry in sustainability? Is it really true that it's very, very hard to escalate a company that wants to be sustainable?
I think it depends on your business model, because a couple of businesses are coming to mind, like Patagonia. They've scaled
Yeah.
pretty well.
Yeah.
Although they have reduce some of the numbers of stores that they had originally, because they realized that that wasn't as sustainable as they originally thought it was.
Yeah.
But then there's also a company that used to be called the Renewal Workshop, which basically was the first mover in the space of, like, for instance, if you're North Face and somebody returns a puffer jacket and they don't want to wear it anymore, instead of burning it and not reselling it, they then sent it to the Renewal Workshop, and the Renewal Workshop would then repair any damages that were on the puffer jacket and then resell it. And so they've now scaled. And so their work, I don't know, I don't think they're publicly listed, but they must be worth millions. And they were acquired by a logistics company in Europe. And so that scaled from a tiny startup in one warehouse working with one brand to they probably work with hundreds of brands now and make millions of euros every year.
That's crazy. Yeah.
I think it just depends on your model. But yeah, I totally get that. I think it's also, I think what happens often, especially within fashion brand, like clothing brands, is that people view sustainability either as like a marketing thing or a thing on the side, and
Yeah.
viewing it as actually like a core strategic business move. And so what I noticed with a lot of the calls that I was having with companies over the last few months is that I was referred to their production team. And I was like, that's great, but actually I want to be speaking to your founder and your CEO, because this is a business move. Like, this isn't just production. It extends to your finance department and your marketing department and the transportation, all of and production, of course, but it's all encompassing. And it's also like team building and coming up with a definition of sustainability as a team. Like, how great would that be if you worked with a company and you know that you helped form their definition of sustainability? And so I think it's more holistic than people realize, or than companies realize.
Do you
Yeah.
experience that oftentimes that people reach out to you to get of a strategy of their sustainability within their businesses, but they do it from a standpoint of, it's a trademark
Mm.
that they can put on their businesses, or
Yeah.
more than it's actually, from a wish of being better and like treating the planet and people better.
I actually don't get companies coming to me often asking for full strategic changes.
Okay.
And what I have been getting recently is a lot of people coming to me asking for jobs. And so I think that's kind of an indication of where the market's at the moment.
Okay.
I think most companies are just kind of wanting to hunker down and focus on, you know, navigating their operations around the ever changing tariffs and other things that are happening around the world, and like making sure that their core business operations are working. And then if it's to look good that they're doing their sustainability, then they've already got that in house usually.
Yeah.
And so if it's usually for the strategic thing, it's usually me going out to companies and kind of pitching to them and making the case. It's not often that they come to me wanting to do a whole strategic like
Change.
positioning, because it takes a few months, and it's an investment for sure.
For sure.
I think that most recently that has been happening.
I also
Yeah.
imagine that, like, at least within the fashion industry now, I love fashion as well, just like out of pure interest, on a hobby level. So I was looking into like different kinds of manufacturers in Portugal, example, and looking at those ones that are doing the fabrics that are made with our Carvigo, for example, for sustainable bikinis and whatever. And I am continuously in shock of how easy it is to start a brand, because you can the buy-in is actually insanely low. So the competition
Yeah.
is just, it's so high that all
Yes,
the all the organic and sustainable and regenerative manufacturers, they are just like you really need, it's a high buy-in to be able to even get into that market, and that's where it becomes a tricky part to navigate through, if you want to start something, and if you want to make a change in that sense and be like a pioneer within that industry.
about it's harder to find like sustainable factories and stuff with minimum order quantities. There are a few, which is nice. Like that's encouraging, but I guess it is harder to find.
Yeah.
But it is encouraging to see. And I'm a member of the Conscious Fashion Collective, and like they have a little list of like low minimum order quantity factories that are available, which are sustainable and ethical, which is nice.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, I guess that was it. One of the other things that you asked about earlier with like the hidden costs of things, which kind of relates to the lifestyle thing as well, is like what threads are companies using and what dyes are they using? Are those toxic or not?
Yeah.
Are those the same material as the main body of the fabric? Because if you're making a very well thought out linen dress, but then it has polyester thread, that's going to ruin the recycling process, and it's going to ruin the chance of that garment being able to be composted and biodegraded at the end of its life. Same as if it's dyed with toxic dyes.
Mm-hmm.
Those were
Natural
the
dyes.
thoughts I was
Yeah.
like, I need to out of my brain.
I was wondering, now that you mentioned talking about with, brands in general, and this thing that Jasmine mentions of it's so easy to build a brand, meaning like it's so easy to just have a product out there, meaning there's so many people doing it and there's no baseline of, once again, for using the word like sustainability and the supply chain and what includes your product story and production. For you, how do you live a non-toxic lifestyle? How do you even know what to choose?
So for beauty products, the app that I use the most is called Yucca, which is spelled like Yuka. And it was started by two brothers and a friend in France. And you can basically, before I found this app, I was literally going around shops reading each ingredient and searching each ingredient on the internet to see if it was toxic or not, which was so time consuming.
Yeah.
And so with this app, you can just scan the barcode and it will tell you what ingredient is in the product and it will give it a rating. If it's bad, it means it has super toxic ingredients in it and it tells you why. Like they're usually like endocrine disruptors or carcinogenic or pollutants and allergens. And then it will give it a good rating and a little green star if there are none of those in it, which is great. So I use that and I scan every product I buy, which isn't that, like, I don't really buy that many products, like beauty products at least. And then with that, there's then the whole packaging dilemma. Like if you're like, okay, well, I now found this really sustainable I've now found this non-toxic product, but it's in a plastic bottle. That's kind of a bummer, like, especially if it's a plastic that isn't easily recycled. If it's a type 1 through 4 plastic, that's usually more easy to recycle. So I might give, like, especially if it's like just like type 1 PET, if I really want the product or if there are no other alternatives, I might buy that. But what I try to do, like if I could do like best case scenario all the time, would be buying glass jars and like aluminium lids for those glass bottles or jars, for the non-toxic products. And then for food, I only buy organic food. And so with that, again, the compromise comes, I would rather buy organic in plastic than conventional, which is usually always in plastic as well. There's usually not conventional plastic, at least where I shop here. Because you're supporting such a big system behind you. Like it's not just organic chicken. It's, that chicken was raised without synthetic fossil fuel based pesticides and chemicals.
Yeah, the bag is bigger.
Yeah, totally. And so that's what I usually do for food. And then lifestyle, I guess for me, that relates to like spirituality and being grounded. And so what can you do to feel like the best version of yourself every day that you wake up? Because when you feel good about yourself or good in your own skin, you're more likely to keep upholding these other positive decisions in your life and more likely to want to keep buying organic or whatever it is, to like keep getting out there and keep like working on yourself and working on what's meaningful and important to you. And so I really like a mix of reformer Pilates, yoga, hiking. I like to journal a fair bit. I've recently gotten back into like watercoloring, although I don't do it very often. That to me is kind of like reading. I'm like, sometimes I just get bored and I'm like, oh, I want to move. Dancing is good too. I love a good dance. And so I think those are kind of the main things that I do in my lifestyle, as well as like cooking. Like I get a lot of joy out of cooking a good meal.
I heard that you were speaking. I heard one of your podcast episodes where you were speaking about
Oh,
this course that you took in regenerative agriculture.
Yeah.
And that's just, again, it's like I love food. For me,
Yeah.
I was instantly ears.
Yeah.
I've had some familiarity with this concept before, but you were speaking about how the soil health basically determines also the density of the food. So as far as I understood it, like you will also feel more fueled from the food that you then eat because the density of the soil is it's from a healthier standpoint than if it's empty and like filled with pesticides and whatever.
Yeah.
And yeah, for me at least, that was one of the things that really stood out to me. And I was thinking in terms of that, how do you, with all these courses that you take and these interests that you feel gravitating towards you, are there any, like, in what way does that impact your lifestyle? Do you see that change like within your, like, this, like, very visibly or over time?
Yeah, for sure. No, it was pretty instant for me. I mean, I took the circular economics course, which I think is where I learned that fact. And then I took the regenerative economics course, which covered more in depth, like regenerative agriculture thing. But I remember being I was actually living with a friend at the time in New York. And I just remember coming out and I was like, I can't talk to you right now. Like I was like, because I hope she doesn't get upset with me saying this, but she was very much like, almost stereotypically American in the sense that we'd get a lot of like, or she'd get a lot of takeout food and takeout containers, and it was like delivered on Grubhub or whatever. I had learned all about how the polymer structure becomes more unstable when containers heat up. And so if you're eating a hot meal out of a plastic container, you are literally eating hundreds of highly toxic chemicals, and they are proven carcinogens. And so the likelihood of you getting cancer is higher than if you weren't eating out of plastic containers, as one example. And so that I was just like, oh my God. And then the regenerative thing was, so it's the nutrient density in the food that is higher in regenerative agriculture. And so regenerative agriculture, unlike organic agriculture, and I wish I could only buy regenerative, but we don't really have it around in this village.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have it more I've noticed it more in the US when I visit the US, but not so much in the UK. But basically, regenerative agriculture prioritizes soil health above anything. And so that's the foundation. So you don't use any synthetic pesticides or fertilizers. You don't do any tilling. You don't do any monocropping, which I think is one of the key differences between that and organic. You can still have monocrops in organic agriculture. And so that isn't necessarily building out a supportive ecosystem. Whereas with regenerative agriculture, you can actually build out a pretty holistic ecosystem that can support wildlife as well as food. And so with that, you get more nutrient density in the soil because there are more positive microbes in there. And then your food has that nutrients, absorbs those nutrients as well. And so then you're eating more nutrients and you're getting more out of it.
Yeah.
And so one of the things that I also learned in this course was that, for instance, in the US, there's a massive issue with food. And that could be down to the fact that so many people are forced to eat, due to their circumstances, fast food, which isn't grown in a regenerative or organic way. And so there are fewer nutrients in that food, which means that you end up eating more to end up filling up your take of nutrients that you just need to operate as a human, like the essential minerals and amino acids that you need. And so that was one thing that I heard, which I believe to be true. I've heard a lot of arguments against it, but it kind of makes sense. Like using my common sense, I think that makes sense.
Using the intuition and just feeling like the way that you feel after a good organic meal with some ingredients,
right?
with ingredients that you've I like honestly also just like visiting a farm and like actually seeing these things, like where it comes from, and like seeing the environment, that in itself maybe placebo, but
No,
even
not. It's really not.
like, yeah.
Like another thing that happens in regenerative agriculture, like one of my clients actually is a regenerative agriculture company, but they are in cotton basically. So, but I love regenerative agriculture, and I'm mostly interested in food. But I also work. I'm getting to know this company a lot, and I know that they're farmers basically. They work a lot with water as well, which is basically all the water that they use, or most of the water that they use to water the produce, is from the rain. So they cultivate that water. And so rainwater has minerals. So when you replenish the soil with rainwater, it has more minerals, as if you would with like water that has been, I don't know what's the process called. But basically it's like really clean water, right? So that's also very interesting. And nutrient density is like so true, honestly. Like you notice such a difference when you eat something that has been, first of all, is seasonal, that is organic, that is even regenerative, like how energy wise, stable energy, how filled you feel after it, right? It's I don't think it's placebo. I think it's real. Yeah.
And locally grown too.
Yeah.
I didn't see that, but locally grown too is so important. And you can see it. Like if you get a pile of dirt, like you can see it's not as dark and rich as that like really rich humus that you get in regenerative farming.
No. It's
100%.
crazy.
Yeah. Like breaks down, right? And then the other one's like a little
It's like
thing that you
Yeah.
smushy.
yeah.
Like squeeze it.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
dust versus like moist soil.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. And another cool thing is that usually regenerative soil holds 2 times more water than conventional monocropped
Mm-hmm.
soil.
Mm-hmm.
So you're saving water as well as reusing it, which is super cool.
Yeah.
That's really incredible, honestly. I also saw that you help actual individuals and you work with celebrities, let's say, and like influencers, etc., become more sustainable on one-to-one services. How does that work, or how is that service for anybody interested watching or
Mm. Yeah, totally. So I typically start it out with the definition. So coming up with your definition of sustainability, circularity, and regeneration, and figuring out which one of those is most important to you. And then it's kind of almost like a business. So then it's mapping out your scope emissions, just doing a baseline screening, like figuring out where your highest um, expenditure or carbon footprint is. It's usually a pretty good indicator of where you maybe should be thinking about coming up with sustainability strategies to reduce your negative impacts.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, it's coming up with strategies that can allow you to have positive impacts. And so there's this tool that I love called handprinting. And so we're so focused on our footprint, which is negative. And what are these negative things that we're putting into the world? And instead of focusing in on that, I prefer to focus in on the handprint, which is, okay, so what can I do in my day to have positive actions?
I love
And
that.
you can measure it and it's quantifiable and you can calculate it and you can see it over time. And so then we come up with a roadmap so then you can follow it and you don't need me all the time. But if you want me all the time, that's fine. We can do that too.
It's fine. It's fair. Yeah. Yeah.
We'll be given like a plan and a roadmap and a report on your lifestyle. And so it's pretty holistic. And then we can also go more into like meditation practices and grounding practices and healing practices that you might be craving as well. Because they all play into each other. It's all interconnected.
Sure.
That came from my journey through this whole process, like of learning along the way and seeing how I changed my mindset along the way and how drastically different that was to how I was when I was younger.
Yeah.
Imagine.
How do you see it so drastically different, if I may ask, if you want to share?
Yeah. Well, it's like, as one example, when I don't remember how old I was, but when I was young-ish, like mid-teens, I'd say maybe early teens even, I would literally work, save up my money, and then go and buy fast fashion. Like I would look forward to it. I was like, all I want to do is go to the mall, and like me and my mum and her best friend would go, and like I just spend like €100, whatever it was, and like, whatever the other like French fast fashion shops were. And then I just wear it all the time. And I think that was an important part of my like figuring out what my personal style was and being able to express myself. Because like being a foreigner in a country that you didn't grow up in is kind of hard sometimes to convey your personality. And so I was like very bold with my clothing. And I think that's kind of how that came out. And so that looks very different to who I am now. And I'm like all in organic, natural materials.
I love that.
Expensive brands, like ethical brands and stuff.
Yeah.
And like the makeup, like I used to wear a lot of makeup and I'd feel really insecure about how I looked because I started modeling when I was 14. And so I think I always had that kind of like, you need to look a certain way, you need to act a certain way, like all this stuff. And now I'm like, I don't really care. Like I wear makeup on occasion if I fancy it. And if I do, it's in like these really nice aluminium packages and it's like non-toxic and super nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm like comfortable in my own skin and stuff like that. It takes time, like for sure takes time.
And then a lot of trial and error, because like as you're saying as well, we're social human beings. Like we use each other and relational beings. Like we use each other as a mirror. And if you grow up in a society or in the community, especially the modeling industry, I've been there since 14 as well. So like that whole like that pressure that it puts on subconsciously maybe but also consciously in some ways, in a lot of ways, it really reflects that how big of an impact it does have on you and your health and the choices that you make, because you need to fit into a certain stereotype, or you need to gain some kind of recognition or acceptance in the world. So it makes sense that, as early human beings, we want to do is to be, have a community and be loved, and that's what we're seeking for. And then in our 20s and 30s, we try to seek
Build
out
it.
our own ways of loving ourselves.
Yeah, totally. I
Yeah.
love that.
I love that. Yeah, that's a beautiful way of portraying it for sure.
Yeah.
Um, I was wondering, how do you feel like the future of sustainability looks like maybe in like the next 5 to 10 years, with this term just arising so much, changing, meaning new things every day, and just with everything that's going on in the world, the big huge rise of AI, and the big change in how companies are working and everything. How is there anything that gives you hope in that sense?
I was forming a different answer until you said hope. And then I was like, oh, wait, that's not a different question. And I had some other drafts in my brain. Well, I'll tell you what I was thinking before that, and then maybe it will circle back around.
Yeah.
What I was thinking is I was kind of hoping that the whole wellness movement would then draw a bridge to sustainability and organic and regenerative agriculture, not only in food, but also in fashion. I think that could be one positive thing that could come from it. I think AI is really worrisome on an individual level. Like I read that MIT study, which basically shows that it makes people less intelligent, in short, and our memories get worse. And I think that that's dangerous for a society that needs to be proactive and well informed.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think AI could possibly help us. Okay, one instance that does give me hope and where AI is being used well, and hopefully other companies can use it in that sense, is Matera, which is a regenerative cotton farm company out in India. And they're doing great work. And so they have all of these tools and all of these metrics that basically help show the farmer the progress that they're making. And that's powered by AI.
Mm-hmm.
And so if more companies were able to use AI in that sense, and not so much in a individual like ChatGPT sense, but to like make data more accessible to people, I think that is hopeful. And I'm hoping, well, yeah, I'm hoping that people don't become reliant on things like ChatGPT. Because it is, I noticed it myself. There was a period of time where I've been reflecting on this a lot this week, actually. But there was this period of time where I was talking to a friend and a colleague, like a business partner, a few years ago. Kind of ChatGPT was becoming really popular, and it was like right towards the end of my master's program. And she was like, need to be using ChatGPT, because if you're not, your competitor is going to be, and they're going to be doing things faster than you and like more like better structured than you and all this other stuff. And I was like, oh my God, I don't know. And it felt like it was going completely against what I believed in almost.
Mhm.
But then I kind of let it sink in, and then I was like, okay, I'll try using it. I'll see how it goes. And I was like, oh, yeah, okay, I kind of get what the hype's about. Like, it gives you answers, you can then embellish on them, it like gives you good structure. But then it got to a point where I was too reliant on it, where I was like, oh, I don't know if I can send this email without seeing what ChatGPT recommends. Or like, oh, I don't know if I have, like, can I really write this report or whatever it is? And I was like doubting myself.
Mm-hmm.
And so I never published anything written by ChatGPT, but I held myself back from publishing things that I wanted to because I didn't feel like it was at that standard, which is insane, like insane. And so now I'm like so over it. Like I refuse to use ChatGPT or anything like it. I'm like, it's annoying.
Yeah.
I can tell when other people have used it.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like a cop out. It feels like people aren't trying so hard anymore. And it kind of pisses me off.
Mm-hmm.
So also just knowing all of the unsustainability issues about it, how much water it's using, how much land it's taking up, how much energy it's consuming. Like it's scary I think it would be scary if I, as a sustainability professional, used it, because then it's like, where's the hope for everyone else to stop using it? You know?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not completely against it. So I'm hopeful that other people come to that conclusion as well. That's given me hope that I had that realization.
Sure.
Also, just like education and awareness is rising. That is also very helpful.
One thing that I wanted to add was that the thing that I also like have thought about a lot with ChatGPT is the the tone of voice that it then uses, right? Because then you become
The
like
word.
you become like like a clone. It's not you who speaks in those emails. It's this clone of you, and then we all collectively get that voice. Like it's not. It's crazy, right? And then yeah, maybe
Yeah.
you can give it some. You can feed it some inspiration with your own wording or whatever, but it won't have that grammatic, you know, like comma like that's incorrect or whatever that usually makes it a bit more spicy or a bit more like you, right? But it doesn't have that. It doesn't include that because it's not grammatically, you know, aligned with what is correct in the dictionary and whatever. So
Right.
yeah, it's crazy to see how people use and I'm guilty as charged as well, like using ChatGPT for my work and for my also my personal life, but having an awareness as to how much you're using it, and I think is a good takeaway.
And I feel like it depends as well a lot on how you use it, you know, and if you're using it to maybe ask questions and think even further every now and then, like it's nice to help you like maybe structure something or systematize like an operation or something like that, that I might as well not be able to do it fully myself
Mm.
because I might need to hire somebody or you know this type of information. But when people use it for writing like you know once again like an email or something, it's like I don't think I will ever get to that point, and I don't ever want to get like with
Yeah.
my work, you know, when I write something. And even nowadays when I get an email and I get a grammar error, I'm kind of happy about it. I'm like, oh, you wrote this, you know. It's like the beauty of being human and being imperfect,
Mm.
like showing arising
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah. Yeah. It's an interesting one, isn't it? It's such a dilemma because, like, well, I'm having two thoughts at the moment. Like, my brother he has the pro version, and he will just speak to it and have all of these like super deep philosophical conversations with it.
Mhm.
Like, he doesn't really use it for anything other than that. He just like he can talk. He's also like very
You can geek
intelligent. He
out
just
with
like
it.
talks
Yeah.
forever, and he will literally talk to it for like 5 hours, and he loves arguing. For him, he
Yeah.
loves.
Yeah.
I'm like,
It's a
maybe that's
sport.
not so helpful for like the brains. The thing that I'm kind of most concerned about is like the brain losing its like intelligence kind of thing. And so for that, it could be quite helpful because he's learning more and is being challenged. Perhaps I don't know. I haven't spoken to him about it in a while. He may be like, yeah, no, I've outgrown it or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is, for instance, for the social media for my business. So when I started it, I think it was like a year and a half ago now, I did try using ChatGPT to like come up like the social media schedule and ideas and all this stuff. Did I use it? Not really. I used it maybe for 2 months and I was like, this is so boring. Like comparing that to like working with you, Aitana, like polar opposites. Like,
Mhm.
yes, it cost me more, but the interaction and the experience and knowing that like the strategy that you're coming up with is like from an authentic place. You can like see where I'm coming from. Like it's intuitive. You're like tapping into like my business needs and my goals. Like I don't think you could get that from ChatGPT. And
100%.
I think that that's also kind of where it's scary because it's like, okay, well, I could have kept using ChatGPT, but then like you wouldn't have had like another job, you know? And
Yeah.
like it's so nice being able to work with
Yeah.
friends in that way. And so that is kind of also scary. But I don't know.
I agree so much with that.
out. I hope that it's a trend that's gonna fall away.
Yeah.
I think AI is here to stay, but I'm hoping that like using it for everything
Yeah.
will
Yeah.
will fade out over time.
Yeah. No, AI will continue existing for sure. The thing is how we use it as individuals. As
Yeah.
companies, I feel like it has a lot of future and it can be actually very sustainable human wise, so that maybe
Mhm.
some people can work more critical thinking jobs and not so much, you know, this like systematic jobs that pay really bad and then you're
Mhm.
just not thinking basically in something that probably a machine can do, and then the company basically yeah, just like snowball it can, but for the better.
Mhm.
And with the social media, like I did it for myself as well, you know, at some point with myself I'm like, hey, like write me post ideas, and then it's
Mhm.
still honestly. And then I'm thinking like, I will never do a post about this, and I've given you so much input. Like, how could you not have an idea? Like, yeah, it's just creativity wise, it's not it. Basically,
No.
I feel for creative jobs, it's quite hard. It needs a lot of input. For systematic things, it does the job quite well.
Yeah.
Okay, so we want to get into some ping pong questions that we have to kind of get this towards ish an end and then have some more fun. Um, favorite sustainable fashion brand right now?
Oh, I know. It's supposed to be quick. Sorry.
Oh, no, fine.
What's my favorite one? That's so tough.
Yeah.
Top of mind.
Or like, yeah,
I
like
can't even remember the name. I'm thinking of one. I'm like, what is it called? Is it? Wait,
Search it
can I
up.
Google
Search
it?
it up. Yeah.
of course.
I think it's like.
Ask ChatGPT.
Hey,
What is it?
ChatGPT. I can't remember.
Can you please remember
No,
this for me?
I use it for math. I have to say. Like, hey, how much is this thing? You know?
Yeah. Um.
Anyway,
Wait. Hold on. This is really annoying me because I think it's not Cotton Nation, but what is it called? Industry of All Nations.
I love that brand.
So design wise, not necessarily my design
Yeah.
taste, but I think systems wise, like they've got a good thing going.
Amazing.
It's really, really good. Amazing.
All right. Next one. Do you think beauty and sustainability are connected?
Yes. Do I need to elaborate on why?
No.
No. Okay.
Not if you don't. If you
I-
want to, you can.
I would love to hear
Yeah.
your answer. Yeah.
I think when you recognize the beauty in living things, it makes you want to protect them more. And I think the way in which you protect living things is by being more sustainable.
I absolutely love that answer. Yeah, that's great. Going for more baseline questions. Overrated eco product.
Rated
Yeah.
spork. Oh, no. Wait, no. Underrated. Sorry, that was underrated. I think
Like, what is even that?
I think it's like like stainless steel metal spork. Overrated? Oh my god!
Right.
Wait, that's a really great question.
But I love the
don't even-
spork as an answer to an underrated eco.
Underrated. I know that's what my brain went. That's like,
Yeah.
wait, no, wrong thing.
Yeah.
Let's go with that. If you we can go with that one.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then one book that you will you can recommend on sustainability or regeneration.
There are a few. I think. Can I do 3, or should I just do? I can do 1.
Do 3.
Do 3. Okay. Sand Talk by Tyson Yunker Porter.
Amazing.
Entangled by Merlin Sheldrake, and Meditations on Nature by Willow Deffinbaugh. Those are my 3 favorites for those.
Added to my Notion.
Love that.
Amazing.
Yeah. Your sustainability role model. Anyone?
I quite like Nat Kelly's work, but otherwise, actually, I'm forgetting her name. So yeah, let's just go with that.
I love that. Yeah.
Perfect.
Leaving me a names is like not a thing.
Usually when it's on the spot, you forget those kind of things. It's like, what's your favorite
Yeah.
color? I'm like, I don't know. Yeah. Do you work in silence or with music?
Music usually.
What type of
I'm building
music?
up a playlist actually at the moment
Yeah.
for consultancy.
Amazing.
So that's
I love
Amazing.
that. If you want to share that, that would be amazing.
Yeah, I can do. I'll make a note. I'll share
We
it.
can even like share it when this podcast
Yeah.
episode.
Oh, I'd love that. Okay.
Amazing. And to close this up, what do you think is a small, simple thing anybody listening could do tomorrow that could have a real impact?
Buy organic. But that's kind of a tough one though, because I know that that's more expensive. So
But you'll get more full from
Nutrients. You have less food.
yeah. It's not if someone wants a free one, like try meditating, or like a free, like some kind of meditative grounding practice, or the Yucca app. I feel like all 3 of those could kind of be good, like entry level
For sure.
things.
For sure.
I love that. I love that. That's a really nice answer. Well, Isabelle, thank you so much for being on the first podcast episode. It was so nice talking to you and just having a laugh and learning so much as well. It was amazing, honestly.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me on. And sorry for not being able to answer all of the ping pong questions with just one.
No,
It's like, no, I have so much.
And it all comes afterwards. Then it's like, oh, should have done that. Yeah.
It's the most overrated thing.
Exactly.
Like, but it's just so lovely. Thank you so much for having me on. Yes, it means a lot. And I'm excited to see where this grows.
Amazing. Well, have a beautiful afternoon.
Thank
And see you
you.
very soon.
Yeah, you too. Speak soon.
Bye.